everyone. Today I want to explore the topic of perfectionism, the gaze, and why do we struggle to show up authentically in front of people and in front of the camera. And in particularly, I want to explore Sartre's theory of the gaze in relation to what I've noticed in my own behavior when I am recording videos or talking to people, and it just hit me as a big lightning when I realized how my behavior changes when I am aware of being watched. So, to begin with, let's explore Sartre's theory of the gaze, and you will see in just a little bit the relation that I have personally found between his theory and our sense of shame when it comes to not having any control over how other people perceive us. So in a nutshell, Sartre's theory of the gaze, or some people call it the look, has to do with the fact that when we are watching someone, let's say we are walking in the park or having a I don't know, yeah, let's say we have a walk in the park and we are observing different objects. We see trees, we see benches, but the moment we see another person, another subject, and we meet their look, their gaze, all of a sudden we become the object of their gaze. So now the dynamic has switched, and just a minute ago we were the protagonist of our own movie, right? We were seeing life, reality, the world from our point of view as the subject, almost as if everybody has that sense that feeling as if the world revolves around us. But the moment we meet someone else's gaze, now we become the object of their reality. So it's almost like we have absolutely no control anymore. And his suggestion is that we cannot be both the subject and the object, because a subject always looks at an object and vice versa, right? Like the object can never be looking at a subject. So objects are being looked at, and subjects are the ones that are observing or gazing at the objects. So what I have realized in my own experience when I was starting to record videos, when I took the decision to start a YouTube channel, and even before that, each time I would turn on the camera and I would look into the lens of the camera, the very thought that I'm being watched already interrupts my flow of ideas and my train of thoughts. So I have to put, like, I noticed that in my behavior, that I have to put a conscious effort to bring my awareness and my attention back on what I'm doing, on the intention of that recording, on the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, and really just put a conscious effort not to be self-conscious, not to have my attention being on the way I look, the way I speak, because that's so easy to happen. Like, especially for women, we have been conditioned to be so self-conscious for decades, centuries. We always look at ourselves and we always feel objectified. That's another there's another theory that actually derives from Sartre's theory of the gaze. It's called the male gaze. It was proposed by Laura Mulvey in the context of cinematography and the cinema, that until recently we had almost no female protagonists in the movies. Women were always objectified. Women were always the passive roles that were usually there to showcase their femininity, their sexuality, or eroticism, and there was always the male gaze that would put them in that passive object role. So as I was exploring my own experience with that little dance that happens when I'm looking into the camera lenses or when I'm looking into someone's eyes as well. It's the same thing, it's still the gaze. That little dance between being the subject and object, as Sartre proposes, we cannot be both an object and a subject. We can either be one or the other at a given time. So when you're looking at someone's eyes, into someone's eyes, or in the camera, you are either seeing them or you are being seen by them. That's what Sartre proposes, and I actually agree with him on that. I have experienced it because as I'm observing that pattern of behavior in myself, I have to put conscious effort to have my focus and my awareness to be on the environment, on the outside world, not on me, to be able to share my message and to channel that flow of ideas and thoughts that I'm having. Because if I am not consciously and mindfully paying attention, the default or automatic mode for my mind, for my brain, would be on how do I look? How do I look? Is my hair okay? Is my background okay? Is the camera okay? What would people think? What would people say? What if I say something stupid? Oh my gosh, what if people judge me? What if I embarrass myself? Like, if I let myself have my attention be in me and be lost in my own thoughts, in my own ego turmoil, I am done. There is nothing that I will be able to say anymore. Right? So it's always that dance between being a subject and an object. And in my and as I was exploring my own behavior with that, what I noticed, as long as we are the subject, as long as we are the one seeing, we are the one in control, I was terrified to show up authentically. I was terrified to record live videos. I was terrified to just show up authentically. I always chose very carefully what to show of myself, because in that way I could have control, or I think I had control over how other people perceive me, right? I want to be seen as perfect, and I'm gonna showcase exactly the parts of me that I know won't be judged, or I know that even if they're judged, it's not gonna hurt that bad, because I know there is a level, many levels deeper within myself, within my vulnerabilities that I'm not showing. So you can't hurt me if I'm still showing a side of me that it's a performative side, a side of me that still has a mask on, right? So and that also translates not just on social media, it translates in everything I was doing in my life, right? Like, in so many ways, in so many aspects, in so many areas of my life, I would stop myself, I would sabotage myself, even if I feel a passion to try something, to do something, to record a video, a podcast, to write, to take a lesson, to whatever it is, to sing, to show up, just to live fully, truly, authentically, unapologetically, to set my own boundaries. Like, I had to, for my whole life, I didn't have to, but that's what I was doing, is that I would tiptoe around different people and different situations, and tiptoe on the surface, just so I can test the waters and see who did I need it to be in that particular environment, in front of this particular person, so I can be liked and accepted and validated. I could be just the best social chameleon. I could be anybody people wanted me to be, because I had this deep seated need for validation. And that's why I spend most of my life people pleasing. That's why I spend most of my life not setting my own boundaries and doing things that I absolutely didn't want to do, just because I thought that would get me the approval of others. So, coming back to that original idea, when I am still the subject, when I am still the one seeing but not letting myself be seen in my most authentic, vulnerable state, I am in control. And if I am in control, that means I have the illusionary uh, control over other people's perception of me. So, but of course, that's not the truth, because we can never, ever, ever have any control over how people perceive us. And the moment we become object of someone else's gaze, or the camera gaze, what happens in that moment? We become the object pretty much of the mercy of someone's mind. We no longer have any control over how we are being perceived. And it's almost as if people now, whoever is going to be watching that video, has unmediated access to me. I cannot meddle in that anymore, because how they see me, what they would perceive me, how they would perceive me, what they would think of me, I have no longer control over that. And because of that, so many of us don't dare to show up, because we are terrified to our very cores by the idea that we would be perceived in a way that is not good, right? That we don't want to be judged, we don't want to be rejected. One of our deepest needs is the need for belonging, and therefore our one of the biggest fears for so many of us is actually the fear of being ostracized, of being rejected. And interestingly enough, in the research of Brené Brown, if you have heard about her, she talks a lot about vulnerability and authenticity. What she found about belonging is absolutely stunning and mind-blowing. She found that belonging actually is the opposite of fitting in. And that really blew my mind, because like we spend most of our lives trying to fit in by becoming whoever people want us to be, or what we think people want us to be, just so that we can feel that we belong. And actually the true belonging happens only in our most vulnerable, authentic moments. Because when you think about it, you can have this great community and friends and like so many people around you, that you cannot be fully yourself with them. So you can be surrounded by many people but still feel alone, still feel like you don't belong, because they don't even know who you are, because you've had to become someone else so that you can fit in. But they don't know that person, they don't know who you truly are. And that's also why when we meet someone in front of whom we can be absolutely ourselves, fully authentic, share our most vulnerable sides, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and feel loved, accepted, we feel that sense of belonging. And that's why many times we say that that person feels like home. It feels like home. That's if belonging can be described in one word, for me that would be home. It feels like home. I feel like if we are aware of that pattern, we can give ourselves the chance to dare to live a little bit more courageously, a little bit more authentically, to show up as we want to show up. So many of us are silencing our voices, and we don't dare to live courageously and to speak our truth. And we have so much to share. You have lived a whole life. Like, don't tell me you have nothing to talk about. You have a whole life that you've lived for whatever, how many years you are. There are stories that would inspire people, that would help people. So if you have something to share with the world, do it. Do it. There is no better time than today. And I know that sounds cheesy, but honestly, for me, I've always waited for the perfect moment to come. I kept waiting for me to have the perfect equipment, to have the perfect background, to have the perfect public speaking skills, to have the perfect success stories, so that I can be like, yes, look at me, I am in Forbes 30 under 30, now I can start speaking my truth. It's like, no, No, don't wait for the perfect moment. Do it now. And there is one thing, I'm just gonna leave you with that. Um, a friend of mine told me, something that she realized, and I'm just gonna use it because it's so relevant in this context. She said, I keep telling myself that I have time. And it's true, I do have time. Life is long, so what? How do you want to spend that time is the question. It's almost like, yeah, you have time, but why would you delay living in your full potential and pursuing your dreams and doing what sparks a little something in you and gives you that sense of purpose and meaning? And why would you leave that for tomorrow? It doesn't make sense. Yes, you do have time. So what? Don't waste that time waiting. What are you waiting for? And I understand. I know it's quite challenging to show up authentically. But when you do, when you live in your own truth, when you live in your own truth, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same, because courage is contagious. The more courageously you show up, the more permission you give to others to do the same. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I would highly appreciate it if you support me, subscribe to my channel and like this video. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and insights on this topic in the comments below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.